Yo, how's it going, everybody? It's Macklin Gaming, and welcome to my review of The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. I did like a first impressions video. I opened the game up, played for an hour, and talked about my first impressions there, which, I was really enjoying the game. But now I'm 30 hours in, and, I'm almost done with the game, and I want to give a proper review because Zelda's one of the biggest game series for me on this channel, and I try to play as many Zelda games as I can, and I know a lot of you have subscribed because of my Zelda content in the past. So with that being said, let's get right into the review. So the first thing I noticed and I was drawn to in this game was the art style, which is very similar, pretty much the same as Link's Awakening Remake. So this is the same development team that made that game, and they've come back with their own original full-length Zelda game here. So I really enjoy the way this game looks. The colors pop, it's a great color palette, very bright and saturated, and it especially looks really nice on an OLED Switch. Then you start up the game and you're actually playing as Link, but as we all know now, Link is not the main character that you play as in this game. It's Zelda. For the first time that I know of, Zelda is the main playable protagonist in this game. And they developed an entire new gameplay mechanic surrounding Zelda and her abilities, and it's something that has not been done in any other Zelda game, and I absolutely love it. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about the echoes and her little staff of like summoning enemies to fight for you as allies, and I think that is super cool, very unique and very creative because there's so many different echoes and different monsters that you can summon and use to fight for you, and it's super fun to do so. And there might be like some ledges that you can't reach, and you have to figure out how to stack up some echoes and to get up to that ledge. Or there might be certain enemies you don't know how to defeat unless you use certain echoes against them. So it's really fun to play around with that, and I just find it really funny that Zelda's like a little witch necromancer in this game. She's summoning little minions to fight for her, and it's like super funny because the game is like really cute looking, but she's like definitely using dark magic here. I mean, we all know this. So once you get through the intro of the game, the world opens up to you, and it's like a very big open world, much bigger than Link's Awakening, and it's very diverse. You have a bunch of different regions. Some of them are like classic Zelda regions. Actually, most of them are. You've got the Gerudo Desert, you've got Faron Wetlands, and you've got the Eldin region where the Gorons are from. And it's just really cool to see all of these like familiar characters and races in Zelda games come to life in this art style, which we haven't seen really. And every time you get to a new region like the Gerudo Desert or the Faron Wetlands, there's a little like subplot or like a sub storyline happening there between the characters, and it's really like each one is very heartwarming, and a lot of it's very funny, and I really enjoy like especially the Zora one. So you're up in Jabul Waters, and there's two different Zora races. One of them is the Zoras that we all know. They're like, the very majestic looking Zoras. They're called the Sea Zoras, and their leader plays the harp. And the other ones are these river Zoras, which were only enemies in Link's Awakening, but now they're like sentient Zoras, and some of them are nice, but the problem in this place is the leader of the river Zoras, who plays this big old horn, is like talking trash to the Sea Zora who's playing the harp, and they're like both going back and forth like, your music's awful, I can't stand it, and it's really funny to see how they live in the same region and they're supposed to be working together, but they're just like very egotistical, and they're trash talking each other's musical styles the whole time. So I really enjoyed this story because as you go through and you help them and you clear out the rifts, by the end of it, they're both having to play their instruments together in harmony, and they play in time together. And at the end of the day, they're like, hey, you sounded pretty good over there. And it's like, yeah, I think our music sounds very good when we come together and play at the same time. And it was a nice, sweet little ending to the sub storyline in the Jabul Waters. I very much enjoyed that one with the Zoras there. But you have little storylines like this in each of the different regions, and you just have to go through and clear out dungeons in each region to ultimately help them and clear out the rifts. I will say the dungeons are very fun. They're much bigger and more enjoyable than the Link's Awakening dungeons, which I know that game really is from like 1993. and it was just remade by this company, but you know, so I can't really compare these old dungeons to the new, but I do enjoy how they've done the dungeons in Echoes of Wisdom. They're very fun, and it's like very similar to classic Zelda dungeons, which have not existed in Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom. Tears of the Kingdom did a little bit better with their dungeons, but they called them temples, right? But no, I really enjoy the Echoes of Wisdom dungeons, and the bosses at the end are very fun. They're a bit of a puzzle, you know, you have to figure out how to defeat them, but once you do, it's not that difficult. So the dungeons are much of an improvement for me, but I would say, on the other hand, the rifts are a little bit redundant and they get kind of old. I didn't really enjoy going through the rifts and finding all the little spirits in there, and like, you know, that was one of the new elements to the game, and they tried to do something cool with that, but for me, it didn't land. I didn't really enjoy clearing out the rifts all the time, because it was like you had to go everywhere, clear out rifts. It was just very tedious and redundant. Another little negative I think for this game is the frame rate. So in Link's Awakening Remake, this company had trouble with the frame rate in that game. It would bounce from like 30 frames to 60 frames per second and back and forth, which is a huge jump. You know, it wouldn't just dip down a little bit from 60. It's either 30 or it's 60. And like you can see these jumps happening when you like exit a building or like walk into a new section of the map. So that was so jarring, and I was like, all right, they've got 5 years to fix that and make this game a little bit different to where the frame rate doesn't fluctuate as much. And it still does, unfortunately, in Echoes of Wisdom. It still has this jumping around frame rate. So if you're very sensitive to that, that can be a bit of an issue, but you know, I thought I'd be sensitive to it. I thought it'd be a game breaker, but it actually wasn't, you know, especially in handheld mode. You can't tell as much, but the frame rate still is one of the negatives about this game. I would say they have to fix that, and maybe, you know, on the Switch 2 and the next console, it'll just run at a lock 60 everywhere. So that's the hope for that, really. And then one more thing that I thought was a little bit questionable was, even though they created a new gameplay mechanic with Zelda and summoning these echoes and these minions to fight for her, they still added in this ability where you transform into Link and you can use your sword and your bow and a set of bombs. And it's like, you know, they couldn't break away from the traditional Link gameplay when they were supposed to. It seemed like this game was supposed to get rid of that, but it's like, no, we still need to be able to swing a sword and shoot a bow and arrow. And I thought that was a little bit of like taking away from the uniqueness of Zelda's character in this game. They probably should have found a way to like leave that out until, I don't know, maybe the very end of the game, but those are probably the negatives for me in the game. So how does the newest Legend of Zelda game stack up against the rest? Well, it's hard to compare to the big 3D open world games like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. But I think this game will hold up in time with the other 2D Zelda games like A Link Between Worlds and even like A Link to the Past or Link's Awakening Remake. But this could definitely be like a young Zelda fan's first Zelda game. You know, if you have a kid who's like very interested in playing Zelda, or if you have like a young daughter or a girl who really wants to play Zelda and like play as a female character, this is a perfect game for them. And even though it's kind of like an entry level Zelda game, I really enjoyed it. You know, there's like not too much of a challenge. Zelda can still take some damage, and you know, there's some powerful enemies out there that can get her, but overall this was a pretty easy game, and you know, which I think is great for like newcomers to the Zelda franchise. So what did you guys think about The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom? I personally am giving it an 8 out of 10. I think it's a great game. It's not a masterpiece, but it's really not the worst Zelda game I've ever played. It's very enjoyable. So what do you guys think about The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.